Greetings, and welcome to Beatles Stuffology, where two old friends sit around and talk BS, Beatles stuff, on a track-by-track basis, pretty much for the sake of it. My name is JG McQuarrie, and I'm here with my co-host Andrew Deacon. Say hi, Andrew.
There's something I want to tell you, JG, and it links into last week, and I've just linked into this week. And region-specific adverts are playing a role in my life again on podcasts. Last week, it was the glory of the hangover of the Canadian trip. This week, I've been getting region-specific adverts about what to do if your tractor strikes power lines.
What region is that? The West Country?
Well, Southwest, so I guess they are assuming that I am rural, you know. But yeah, I just thought I would raise that as a little nod to last week's conversation. Anyway, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. I'm very much hoping the adverts are in like a broad West Country accent, which is one of my favourite accents in the world. So
Well,
that would be lovely. But other than that, I'm all good, thank you.
one of the accents is, but then a couple of them aren't. One of them sounds slightly AI generated, but that is the way of the world at the moment, isn't it? But there you go. Yeah, so you're good. I'm good. Everybody's good. That's good.
Excellent.
Yeah, that was a smooth introduction.
Yeah, I think we've done very well. I also want to very, very briefly refer back to something from a few episodes ago, which is no, it's not that exciting. Don't worry. It's just that I forget exactly which episode it was, but we mentioned Peggy's Suicide, and I've been listening to it again this week. Oh my God, that's a brilliant album. It's so easy to forget how good it is when you're not listening to it. But I just want to re-mention it because it's just phenomenal. And when I was listening to it, I remembered our conversation, and I was thinking, oh, I must remember to mention that to Andrew when I speak to him next. And this is when I speak to you next. So this is me mentioning it.
It is phenomenal. Yeah, it's one of those that one of those few CDs. I've still got quite a few CDs, but it's one of the few CDs of the few CDs I've got that will actually get an airing on the one CD player that I've got, which is of course the car.
I don't even have one in my car anymore. If I want to listen to a CD, I have to use my Blu-ray player for it. I think I've got like 20 or 30 CDs left now, but yeah, that's now the only way I can listen to CDs in any way, shape, or form.
There's a box in the loft with CDs and also some 7-inch singles in there. And I meant to go. There's something really interesting that you mightn't be aware of about one of those 7-inch singles. So
Okay.
I'll tease that one for next time. But it's a massive power hit from the early 1980s. That is something in common with a massive power hit of the mid 90s. But I'm going to leave it at that. And yeah, we'll just tease you for the next episode when it might kind of, well, maybe it'll fit with tomorrow, never knows. But, you know, we'll work it in. So there you go, listener. That was a reference that you didn't need to hear about something that may or may not happen in a future episode.
Good, excellent. I think we've nailed the chronology on that one rather well, I have to say. But let's drag us back to the song we're supposed to be talking about this week, which is, of course, I Want to Tell You. So George gets number 3 on the album, a unique phenomenon so far. Worth it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, do we know why they were so generous at this point?
Because John Lennon wasn't writing very much. Basically, they needed something to fill the gap. I mean, that sounds more rude towards George than I kind of mean it to, but John Lennon was not being terribly creative in terms of his the volume of material that he was producing at this point. So there was space in the album for George to get a third song.
I mean, hence why he needed For You Blue on Let It Be as well, I guess, because you know,
what are you saying about For You Blue?
Well, no, I like it, but John didn't. But John at that point didn't realise that the reason that they were recording that was because he was off his head on heroin. Allegedly. No, it's not allegedly, is it?
I don't think it's allegedly at all. I think it's factually.
Okay, so he's fixing a hole.
Hey, excellent, good. Oh, we're doing well with the references this episode. Yeah. Anyway,
Okay.
Do you like the song? What do you think of it?
Yeah, I do. I think it's interesting in lots of ways, and I think that starts with the guitar intro. And one thing you've got to love about the Beatles is the many different ways they find to start songs. So that descending guitar line is really interesting on its own. But I also think it's all the more interesting because I don't think you can tell what's going to come in terms of the song from just that introduction. I think when we eventually get into it, it's a case of, oh, right, okay, wasn't expecting that at all. And that's great. And then counterbalance that, the outro with that harmonization going on of I've Got Time is exactly what you expect from the song that precedes it. And you know what? I think that's the right way around.
I would agree. I really love that opening riff. It's sort of vaguely reminiscent of something like maybe Day Tripper
Okay.
or Ticket to Ride, something like that. But you're right; it doesn't really give an indication of where the song was going to go, and that sort of discordant, wonky piano and the way the lyric and the vocals sound, you can't really imply any of that. And of course, it fades in as well, which is also markedly unusual, if not unique at this point. So it does give a very nice framing to the song, but it's also deployed throughout the song as well. So not only does it not give you any idea of where the song is going to go, but it also fits into the song really, really well too. And that's a rather marvelous trick to be able to pull, I think.
Yeah, and actually, as you've mentioned, the discordant piano, I think that's worth raising as well because that is a complete surprise. I would not say that my knowledge of popular music in the 60s is exhaustive, but trying to sort of wrap my head around who at this point was deliberately sounding as discordant in a song as this, it feels like it's something that is completely different to anything else that's going on at the moment. It's almost as though you're saying, well, we are brave enough to sound a bit shit, but actually it's not. It's good, but it just sounds like it's not. And that's why it's good.
Yeah, it's an interesting approach to take, and it's McCartney on piano who's contributing that. So some really great work from him there. But it's a nice change of pace as well. I think from the album, which has been quite. We've had kind of we've had the nice, lovely big riff on "And Your Bird Can Sing." We've had the kind of restrained melancholy and regret of "For No One," and sort of the bright, perky Dr. Robert. Now we've got another kind of palette being added to the album with this weird kind of discordant piano, which we haven't really come across anything like that in the album so far, and it's a really valuable addition. It gives a little bit of extra. I'm sorry, I realize this is going to make me sound like a wanker for saying it, but sonic texture to the album, and it's such a simple thing, but it makes such a big difference.
I can go off you.
Yes, me too.
In order to get back on track, I mean, it's worth saying this is quite a piano heavy album for them anyway. But it is.
Yeah, but nothing that sounds like
No,
this,
no, no.
though.
I agree absolutely, and I don't really think there's an awful lot up to this point. It could be that this is the starting point in terms of the recording process, because Good Day Sunshine is recorded after this, a few days after, for example, and that's the other track that has real kind of heavy sort of piano feel. Um, but yeah, I just think it's a very brave thing to do. Whether or not it fits in with um, some of the chord sequences, structures, or the chords that are being used in some of the Indian music that he's listening to, again, not expert enough to know, but part of me wonders, 'cause they don't seem to have spent an awful lot of time in the studio recording this. I think it's just like 5 takes on June the 2nd and an
Hmm.
overdub on one of those the following night. I wonder if it had been a McCartney or a Lennon song, whether those rougher edges would have got smoothed out. I wonder if indeed we've got any knowledge of when it was even written, because certainly in a couple of the Harrison books that I've read, there's no information about this song whatsoever, which is, frustrating. But I haven't read Harrison's own book, so I don't know what it is that he says about it.
He does reference it in his own book, I know, but I haven't read I Me Mine either, so I can't really say exactly. Certainly, yeah. I had a quick flip through Complete Beatles recording sessions before we started today, and yeah, I mean all the information about the song is in there, but that's also not a great deal of information, and it's telling also, I suppose, to an extent that there's nothing on Anthology. And the appearance on the Super Deluxe Quantum Hyper Revolver, there's like the 2022 remix. There's a mono remix. I think it's take 4, which is there's a bit of studio chatter and a bit of a breakdown, and then that's it. So that even any alternative versions of it are pretty slight. As there's not a lot on the ground there, but I think maybe the speed of recording on this might, in the end, have done it some favors. Like you said, none of the rough edges have been sanded down, and that's to the song's benefit. That sort of spikiness about it is one of the things that makes it a really kind of compelling piece of music. But I do think, and again, I don't mean this to sound as rude as it's going to, I do think it is a bit of a studio confection. It works really well constructed for the album, put together this way, but there's not a vast amount to this song. It's 6 chords, 2 of which are variations on B. There's a B minor and a B7th, and that's it. There's not a lot going on. There's no instrumental break. It's just like 3 verses and a couple of middle eights. It works, and I do really like this song. I want to emphasize that fact. I think it's a great song, but there isn't a vast amount to it. And when it's kind of peeled back, you can see that we've said this about a couple of songs from Revolver. This is a really good album track, and I think that's maybe what it is.
No, fair enough. I do, in the interest of accuracy, I believe I mentioned earlier that John Lennon didn't like For You Blue. It was I Me Mine that I was thinking of, and you reminded me of that when you mentioned the title of the song. Interestingly, apparently the musical dissonance in the song is intended to mirror the frustration in communication that was evidenced by the lyrics. I'm not just reading that after a very quick request to a non-specific AI bit to say, what does he say in his book about? Yes, that's not how we do research.
No. Also, don't use AI for that sort of thing. Anyway,
in fairness, and I will refer to what BeatlesBooks.com says. I said, fearing that he's coming across as unkind to Patty, George explains, it's only me, it's not my mind. In his 1980 book, I Me Mine, George states, I want to tell you about the avalanche of thoughts that are so hard to write down or say or transmit. Adding that, incorporating newly acquired Eastern beliefs, he should have changed the lyrics to the first bridge to express the idea that the mind is the thing that hops about, telling us to do this or that, when what we need is to lose the mind, which is an interesting idea. This new thought influenced George to change the lyric to, it isn't me, it's just my mind, when he performed the song during his 1991 Japan tour, which we will come back to in a moment. But I think that's a point at which to say, actually, the confusion that the dissonance causes is actually quite important to me as well, because that was, for many, many, many years, backed up by a confusion about the lyrics, particularly the line, that is confusing things. Because in my younger brain, I hadn't worked out that was enjambment. My brain hadn't worked out that was the second part of the sentence that it started in the previous line. So it says, it's not my mind that is confusing things. For some reason, my younger brain, and my older brain never bothered to correct this, read it as, it's not my mind, full stop. And then, oh, that is confusing things. So for years I was thinking, George, your grammar is really bad. What's going on? But but confusion. It's interesting that I picked up on confusion just in the wrong way. So well done, George.
He's confused you. Excellent. Job well done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I do like the lyric here. I think it's effective. I was going to say as far as it goes, but again, I'm trying not to sound rude about this song. I can't really speak to the grandiosity of George's philosophical beliefs, or indeed the amount of acid he was taking in order to look back at the earth from afar, or however he put it. It's just but it does work well. There is a genuine sense of confusing, clearly, also for your young self as well. But it's sort of effective, and it's interesting. There's a couple of contemporary reviews from the 60s, which kind of, refer to it as kind of like a harsh kind of love song or that kind of stuff. And I think I understand why it's interpreted that way, but I mean, there's very little about the lyric to me that reads as a love song. That it's about a relationship or that it's about a woman, obviously in this case it's Patty. Yes, but I don't think it really reads as a love song. Or do you think I'm missing something there?
No, but I think it's worth developing that, because this is the part where, if anyone's actually listened to a lot of our previous episodes, they would have heard us talk about how whiny some of the lyrics are about, oh, there's this girl and she doesn't love me. Why doesn't she love me? Well, life is so unkind. Whereas here you've got someone who's talking in a much more sophisticated way, still a young person, about saying, look, I think I come across in a way that I'm not intended. I don't know why. I haven't got a clue what's going on inside my head, and I really wish I could explain what's going on. I mean, the only thing, of course, what it doesn't say is, and by the way, I'm really, really sorry about this. Because of course that, to go back to that line, but if I seem to be unkind, it's only me. It's not my mind that is confusing things, and I don't think he needs to then say, by the way, I'm really, really sorry because I've upset you and I'm a nasty, horrible man. But it is interesting that he is should we say, exploring inner consciousness in a way that is completely different to those previous John Lennon kind of, why doesn't she love me? I'm so nice. Songs. Anyway, yeah. So yeah, I'll forgive him this for trying something a little bit different, or something similar but from a different perspective.
Yeah, I think it's quite sophisticated in that way, and again, maybe this is also me. Maybe I keep saying I don't mean to come across this way when I'm talking about the song because I like it. I'm kind of mirroring what's going on in the song itself, which again is not my intention. That would imply I had put more thought into this than I actually have. But it is an effective approach, and yeah, it's a much bigger step into sort of maturity than we've really seen. And the fact that there isn't apologies in it, I'm kind of glad about that, because I think often those can come across as dreadfully self-pitying. Oh, I'm so sorry, it was all me. And we're spared that here, and that's fine. This is about a specific thing, about that inability to communicate. I think extending that beyond would probably put more strain on this song than it could necessarily bear. So I'm fine with the fact that there isn't an apology. We have the discussion of what's going on, and that's enough.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And this song is a snapshot into what this person's thinking. It's not a narrative piece. So yeah, that's absolutely fine. It's worth picking up on, I think, a detail that I mentioned when I was reading that bit from BeatlesBooks.com. This was played on every single night of George's tour to Japan in '91 with Eric Clapton. I mean, in fairness, if you look at the set list, it was pretty much exactly the same in the same order every single night, with one or two subtle differences, but only for a couple of the concerts. But they're interesting if you look at the set list. Yeah, bang in the middle, you've got the Cream song Badge, and then you've got Wonderful Tonight. So I reckon at that point George went off for a 10-minute break while Eric did his thing on stage. Which is fine. So you could then come back for a little bit more energy, for the end. But it was always the opening song. And then when in 92, George played the Royal Albert Hall, not with Eric that time. Again, it was the opening song. And then at the Royal Albert Hall after George's death, when they started the section of the concert that was focused on George's Beatles and solo work, again, it was the opening song. So at some point, someone's got it into their head that this is a really good opening number, which I find particularly interesting. And I wonder if it's the layered way in which the instrumentation comes in. So obviously starting then with the guitar, and then there's the piano chord, and then you get the drums, and then everything together, just as a good way of kind of like almost introducing the band, but also people then finding their own way into the song rather than everyone starting together 1, 2, 3, 4 kind of thing.
Could be. I think it's an interesting choice for an opening number. I suppose it's pretty up-tempo, it's pretty bright. Yeah, like you said, it gives everybody an opportunity to come in. But listening to that version on the 1991 Live in Japan, I used to have that album in cassette back in our university days, and it's not very good. Sorry, George. And particularly revisiting I Want to Tell You as the opening song, it's pretty thin. I mean, it gets the job done. It gets things underway. I don't know if it's the production on that album. I don't know if it's just the way that the band were playing on that particular night that it was recorded. But it's not great. And listening to, I'm going to have to be rude about Jeff Lynne, I'm afraid. Listening to Jeff Lynne's version, when he did it at the concert for George, he doesn't improve on it, which is maybe not a bit of a massive surprise, but it remains kind of thin. It's not a really good song. Maybe it is a good opener. The following song is Old Brown Shoe on Live in Japan, and it's great. I love Old Brown Shoe. Spoilers. I think it's a terrific little song. Very, very underrated. And it's got a really nice bouncy kind of energy for it, which is kind of lacking in I Want to Tell You. But tellingly, it's extended out to 4.5 minutes. Well, that's double the length almost of the album version. And the album version works because it doesn't one of the reasons it works is that it doesn't overextend itself. It's fine being a sort of 2.5 minute pop song, and you've got so much going on. We've talked about sophistication of lyric, we've talked about the dissonance, we've talked about the great guitar riff. We haven't mentioned Ringo, but Ringo's doing really great work here, some really nice work. It all kind of comes together. And then it stops at 2.5 minutes because that's enough of the song. The song was the right length for what it needs to be. Extending it out to that sort of 4.5 minute runtime, it kind of saps something from the song. It doesn't need that. So yeah, I mean, you say someone's got it into their head. I think we know that the someone who's got it into their head is George Harrison, but I'm not really sure that I agree with him in this case.
Do you not think maybe it was an Eric decision? Because Eric was instrumental in that tour going ahead, wasn't he? He was the one that persuaded George that it would be good for him. And maybe, I wonder if he put together a lot more of the decisions than George was willing to do. But I have no evidence. That's just a bit of a guess. And
it could be. If somebody does know the answer to that question, if our dear listenership knows, then please write in and tell us, because it would be actually interesting to have an answer to that question. But equally, I'm very unwilling to give Eric Clapton credit for anything. So I'm still going to stick up with George until I find out otherwise.
Well, you're not even going to give him credit for Brexit. I wonder.
I don't think credit is the word I would use. No.
him, Van der Man, and Boris got it done, didn't they, or something like that?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure Morrissey was in backup there, but that's just the way of things.
You mentioned it's 2.5 minutes. We should, of course, acknowledge that it's probably nearer 2:05, 2:10 once you take out the guitar intro and the outro as well. So in terms of actual song, it's just over 2 minutes, and it kind of flies by as well. It is a slight thing, and I think listening to some recordings of George performing it on that tour, one of the things that I noticed is that he really does end up slipping into his Liverpudlian accent pretty regularly when he sings it. It's such an interesting thing because his vocals have changed so much over the years, but he just can't help do that kind of that nasal drawl that he sometimes has.
It does come out rather boldly, doesn't it?
Yes.
It's not a bad thing, but it's definitely something that's changed over the years. Yeah, and given that he hadn't performed live since 1974, I guess he didn't have a lot of that's between 1974 and 1991, I should say. He doesn't have a lot of kind of like stage experience, so he's kind of defaulted back to his natural accent, which I like. I find it deeply charming, especially given how bad he sounded on that 1974 tour. But yeah, I return to the point that it's not a good live album. It's very kind of thin sounding. There's not much energy to it.
Yeah, I think that certainly comes across. Yeah, only in it for the money. Yeah, possibly,
Well, possibly.
possibly. But then they did need it, really, didn't? Yeah.
The album, by the way, was produced by Spike and Nelson Wilbury, so make of that what you will.
Oh, right. Okay. Okay. Well, it was after Cloud 9, wasn't it? So,
Yeah. Cloud9
yeah,
is 89, I
yeah.
think.
So therefore, Jeff's involvement is sort of, yeah, inevitable. The only thing of interest that I wanted to mention was the fact that George seems to have been a little bit reluctant to come up with titles in general. And so Love You Too was recorded as Granny Smith on the log sheet, and this one is recorded as Laxton Superb, which is another variation of Apple. Although I'm not.
Allegedly, I have never seen. I've never heard of Lexington Superb out with people talking about this song. So I don't know. She said, "Yeah, it's an apple." Sure, if you say so.
I googled it. I searched.
I'm sure it exists, but you never see it alongside the Granny Smiths and Cold and Delicious. That's for sure.
Well, yeah, but are you suggesting that every supermarket you go in should carry every particular variety of every fruit possible?
No, I'm suggesting it's odd that in the 30 years I've been aware of this Lexington Superb fact, I have never once seen it anywhere ever.
Okay, well, Google it. That's all I was saying.
I'm not doubting that it exists as a thing, to be clear.
Anyway, the point was that it's not actually George that's coming up with these titles. In this case, it's Jeff Emerick. So George apparently just really struggled to come up with titles. So Jeff Emerick would put something down on the on the recording details, and in this case, having had Granny Smith before, he came up with another variety of apple. So, if you've got an apple bone to pick it with Jeff Apple Emerick.
That's exactly what I will do.
Yeah. Cover versions. I didn't bother. Did you?
Yeah, they are unspeakably dull. I couldn't find a single interesting cover version. But except, I mean, I've talked enough about the Live in Japan one, and I'm not going to slag off Jeff Lynne any further for his Concert for George thing, which isn't great either. Ted Nugent has a cover version of it, which is straight down the line.
Right. Okay.
Imagine. But it's not. It's got a really boring guitar solo that the song just doesn't need. And then, of course, inevitably, there's a Smithereens version because
they did an album, didn't they?
Yeah, exactly. There's the Lambretti's version, which is again just sounds like the song, and that pretty much everything I came across, it was just a whole sequence of dull cover versions that more or less sound like they're just doing exactly what was done in the album, give or take the odd guitar solo or two. So it was a disappointing round of cover versions this time, I'm afraid.
Are you aware of what Stereogum refers to as the sludge rock overlords Melvins. You heard of
I do
Melvins?
know the Melvins. Yeah, I'm aware of their
According
existence.
to them, for an album, I think in 2016, they recorded an evil but tuneful version of I Want to Tell You.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
boring as well.
okay.
Sorry, Melvins fans out there. I'm sure there's a massive overlap between us. The Venn diagram between us and Melvins fan is probably just a circle. It's also not very good. I don't know. Again, it kind of brings me back to what I said before, which is that there is something ever so slightly slight about this song, and it is a little bit of a studio confection. And the way that other people have tried to cover this song has kind of reinforced that opinion in my mind. In fact, I couldn't find a single. I haven't listened to every single cover version that's extant in the world. Let's be clear about that. But of all the stuff that I could find, and going through secondhand songs and bits and pieces like that, there just aren't any really interesting cover versions, and they're all very much straight down the line, and that kind of speaks to the fact that ultimately, and again, I'm not slugging this song off despite what I sound like, but there's only so much there, and this is a really good album track, and I think that's kind of where it stops. And the fact that nobody else has been able to find anything particularly interesting to do, or interesting place. There's not even like a slowed down, let's make it sound like an indie version because it's the opening to some tedious, mid 2000s movie kind of thing. There's not even that. It's just, I don't know. I mean, maybe there is somewhere. I didn't find it if there was, and I don't suppose it would be particularly great if it is.
Well, I was thinking a Lloyd's Bank advert would be the
Yeah,
place,
exactly.
for that.
That's a perfect example. But
But so, I suppose two things to note. One is that there's no Beat Bugs version of it, which is hugely disappointing. Secondly, secondhand songs. I've just had a quick look. Mark Bolan, T-Rex. Really? I feel like if I click on that, it's probably going to be a completely different song. We've been fooled by that before, haven't we?
Damn Slow Drive! What did you do to us?
Yes, yeah. Um, yeah, I'm not going to risk it. I suspect they're a fairly generic series of words, aren't they? So the chances are it's probably something completely different. But I will maybe report back the next time, because that should, if it is, that should be a really interesting little bit of pop culture. What an interesting piece for the little 70s pixie of pop to have picked to cover. But yeah, I've not done our research. I will do some research, and then I will forget to tell you all about it next time.
Excellent. Well, I'll look forward to that.
Well, not as a case. Well, you can look forward to it. Whether
Wow.
that'll actually happen is another matter. But yeah, look away, look away.
Good. I think we might be running out of steam here.
Run. We're not running. Run. We have run out of steam.
Okay, good. Score, please.
Oh, yeah. See, that's a tricky one, isn't it? Because
it
last
is.
week I gave Dr. Robert an 8, and yeah, I was praising it to high heaven as though it was a 10, but I know it's only an 8. Hey, but let's do 8. Let's do 8. I think it's. I think. Hey, how about this for a revelation? Of the 3 George songs on this album, I think it's my favourite.
Okay. Oh, that's really interesting. Yeah, I do. Again, I keep saying I like this song a lot. Do I like it more than I really love You Too? I'm going to give it 7.5, I think. So that is higher than last week. That was Dr. Robert and 7. I do think it's better than that. But I think I'm happy. Yeah, I think I'm happy with a 7.5. Am I happy with that? Is it an 8? No, it's a 7.5. Good. I'm done. I'm happy with that score.
Oh, sorry. Have you finished chatting with yourself there?
I think so. I think
Okay,
so, yes.
good. Well
Right.
done. Well done, you. Hi, everyone.
Thank you very much. I've finished chatting to myself, and I think I have also finished chatting to you. So let's wrap this episode up, and you can really get hold of us. Actually, just before that, for some reason, I want to mention. Not for some reason I want to mention. I want to mention for some reason. It's very important to get those two things in the right order.
Do you want to tell me?
I do want to tell you that we have become inexplicably popular in Vietnam. We get stats for where people are listening. For some reason, in Vietnam, it's now become our third most popular country after America and the United Kingdom. So, hello to our Vietnamese fans. I did a wave there. I don't know why. You can't see this. But hello. It's lovely to have you. And if you're listening to this in Vietnam, write in and tell us. It would be lovely to hear from you. And you can do that, he says smoothly, by contacting us. You can email us at beatlesstuffology@gmail.com. We are Beatles Stuffology on Instagram. And if you want to get in hold of me or indeed listen and read anything I've written, you can find that at www.jgmcquarrie.scot. Please like, rate, and review us on whatever podcast you're using so that more people can find the show. It does make a big difference. So if you have literally 10 seconds to just click on something and give us a little like, it would be very, very much appreciated. Next time out, that's the second last song on the album, and it is going to be Got to Get You Into My Life. And as always, we hope you're going to join us for it. But until then, keep listening.